The nude photo of you at 18, shot by your ex, ready to go live. Add in the unedited backstage clip. And that fake mental health record I planted during your depressive episode? Believe me, Clara, you'll vanish from the media world as if you never existed. My name is Clara Monroe. Before I lost my legs, I was one of the most recognizable faces on the billboards lining Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. At 26, I was Calvin Klein's exclusive lingerie model, toned body, caramel skin, eyes that could throw men off course with just one blink. But then, the universe slapped me. One rainy evening, I was driving home, taking a shortcut over the West Bridge. My Range Rover's steering suddenly jammed. The car slammed into the guardrail, hard. When I woke up in the hospital, I was told I would never walk again. Worse yet, the police said the braking system had been tampered with, but the case files vanished. They called it a technical glitch. I didn't believe it, but I didn't have the strength to fight. Until today. 4 years later, I launched an inclusive fashion brand made for people with disabilities. I was no longer the sexy cover girl, I was the CEO, and I still wore silk, still smoked my eyes, still let a hint of cleavage show, but this time from a wheelchair, not a catwalk. Saturday night, I was having dinner with Serena, my PR consultant and college best friend. "Clara, let me take you in," she said, as we arrived at Luca Pravato, one of the most expensive Italian restaurants in West Hollywood. I rolled into the lobby, Serena walking beside me, her hand gently on my shoulder. The place smelled of candles, leather, and red wine. Everything looked perfect, until the manager appeared. A thin man with slicked back hair and a name tag that read Rick, general manager, stepped up. "I'm sorry, ladies. We, unfortunately, don't have a suitable table tonight." Serena frowned. "We made a reservation through OpenTable. 2 guests, name's Clara Monroe." Rick glanced at me, then gave a strained smile. "Ah, yes. Well, there was an issue with the reservation system. So sorry." I stared at him. That face wasn't unfamiliar. It felt like I'd seen him somewhere before. And he looked at me like he knew exactly who I was. His eyes weren't blank. They were afraid. "I understand," I said. "Then we'll leave. But be sure to tell your boss something for me. It's time your staff learns how to see the value of a woman, even when she can't walk." I turned away. Serena pushed me out of the lobby, but we didn't leave right away. We stopped at a nearby cafe. I ordered an espresso. Serena sat silently, fuming. I was calm, used to this kind of disdain. But then, when the bill came, something caught my eye. On the corner of the receipt, in red pen, someone had written, "Clara, don't come back. They know." I froze. "What the hell?" Serena whispered. I didn't respond. My hands trembled. How did they know my name? And who the hell were they? That night, once I got back to my penthouse, I reviewed every frame from the security cameras attached to my wheelchair, every face I'd interacted with that day. No one looked familiar. But the name, I searched and then I found Rick Holloway, a backstage assistant from a 2016 shoot. There had been an incident then. A behind-the-scenes clip leaked online showing me supposedly being cold to the crew. The clip was deleted, but a week later, my contract was terminated without explanation. I thought it was over. But now, Rick, a ghost from that past, was refusing me service in the present. And someone had just left me a warning. They know. Know what? Could it be? My accident wasn't an accident? I opened my laptop, tried logging into the internal system of the modeling agency I used to work for. I went through every old password. None worked. So I created a hidden account and emailed the only person I still trusted with something like this, Lucas, a hacker and Serena's ex. 1 hour later, Lucas replied, "Clara, I just found an encrypted file in Luca Pravato's internal database. Your name is listed under something called the Red Flag Guest Registry. Reason, risk of reinvestigation, case 2019. The year of my accident. My throat tightened, my fingers clenched the armrest of my chair. If this is real, then someone's trying to erase me again. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the blurred bridge in the rain, the jerking wheel, the screech of metal, and the sickening crunch of my own spine. Risk of reinvestigation, case 2019. The phrase echoed in my mind like a death chant. At 5 a.m., I called Serena. "Clara," her voice was groggy. "I need you, now. Bring your laptop, bring copies of the old media files, and bring what you once hid in the safe." Silence for a second. Then she whispered, "You still remember the black USB?" Never forgot. 1 hour later, we sat in my living room, morning light bleeding through the white curtains, casting soft shadows across two faces, one like stone, the other trembling. Serena placed a faded black USB on the coffee table. I got this from a lighting technician back then. He said he saw Rick sneaking into the technical bay, the area controlling the model car's brake system during the shoot. At the time, I thought he was just trying to sabotage your career. But no one believed it, I finished for her. Because the original video was cut, and this version never saw daylight. I plugged in the USB. A folder popped up, Clara_2019 RAW. Inside were raw, unedited video files. One camera, a maintenance cam, showed Rick bent inside the mock car's control panel. He unscrewed a protective plate, inserted something quickly into the circuitry, looked around, disappeared. A cold wave ran down my spine. "This wasn't an accident," I said, almost in a trance. "Rick tampered with the brakes, and now he works for Luca Provato, which means they're connected." Not just that, I zoomed in. Look at the tattoo on the back of his neck. An eye with a Latin inscription. I've seen it before. Where? On my stepmother's wrist. Serena stiffened. "Your stepmother?" I nodded. "She raised me after my dad died, married him 2 years before his passing, and after the accident, she claimed she couldn't help financially because she had her own company to run, a company with no known address." I shivered. She had always looked at me kindly, too kindly, like someone watching their prey, not loving their child. I knew I had to get inside Luca Provato, but not as a customer. I called Lucas. "Get me a fake ID. I need to become a staff member there within 3 days." Lucas laughed. "Clara, you do realize this is insane?" "I'm in a wheelchair, Lucas. The world went insane on me first. Now it's my turn." 3 days later, I held a new employee profile under the name Carla Morris, fake background, fake address, along with a job offer, urgent hire, dish staff, night shift. I rolled into my first shift at 10 p.m. Rick wasn't there. A young girl named Maddie trained me. Everything seemed normal, but I noticed the cameras, some aimed directly at the kitchen, others with no indicator lights. Around 1 a.m., I pretended to spill a bucket of water and slipped into the back storage area. There, I found a steel door with a coded lock. I pulled out my phone, sent a signal to Lucas. "Back hallway door, need remote unlock." 2 minutes later, the lock flashed green. I pushed the door open. The steel door gave way to a stairwell, damp, echoing, dimly lit with flickering fluorescent bulbs. I rolled carefully down the steps, using a mini lift platform, my heartbeat pounding like war drums in my chest. The first room, files. A steel shelf labeled Confidential, R classification, client files. I pulled one folder at a time. Then I saw my name. Clara Monroe, Phase 2, Target Collateral. Inside, post-accident photos of me, hospital bills, threatening letters from anonymous accounts, and a colored photo of my ex-boyfriend, Jackson. Jackson had vanished after my accident. I thought he was dead, but the photo was dated just a year ago, with a caption, "Still under control. Status, silent." I clutched the photo so tightly the edges tore. Who's holding him? Why does he have to be silent? And why would Rick, a glorified backstage assistant, be connected to all this? I began wheeling back. He stepped closer. "She told me That girl got famous too fast. Break a few bones, maybe she'll behave better. I closed my eyes. The sentence had been written 4 years ago, and I'd only just read the first line. I opened my eyes again. Rick stood barely 3 meters away, gun steady, finger near the trigger, but his face, he was trembling, eyes darting. He wasn't in control either. "If you wanted to shoot me," I said calmly, "you'd have done it 3 minutes ago." Rick chuckled dryly. "I don't need to shoot. I just need to keep you here until she arrives." She? The most powerful investor behind every Westline Group restaurant. His voice cracked with reverence and rage. She's the queen. She created Clara Monroe, and she'll be the one to end her. I leaned forward. "And you think she'll keep her promise to you after you kill me?" Rick's brow furrowed. I had struck a nerve. Just then, his phone buzzed. An incoming video call. Caller ID, LM. I recognized the initials instantly. Lydia Monroe, my stepmother. Rick glanced at me, then put the call on speaker. The screen lit up, her face appeared, silver hair brushed perfectly, blood-red lips, and those ashen gray eyes, like a predator's. "Rick," she whispered, ice cold and serene, "you're late. You said Clara wouldn't show up here. You underestimated her, like every man who's ever slept with her." I clenched my jaw. "Hello, Lydia. Still enjoy pulling strings from the shadows, don't you?" Her lips curled into a smile. "Clara, darling, I taught you never to let emotions dictate your moves, yet here you are, caught in your own feelings. Ever wonder why Jackson disappeared without a trace?" My chest tightened. "I thought he died in the second accident, San Diego." "No," she said, eyes slicing through the camera. "He lived, but he betrayed me, and betrayal must be caged." She was holding him, alive, but imprisoned. "What do you want from me?" I growled. "I want you, still, no digging, no exposing, no revisiting 2019. And in return, I'll let you see him, once." "And if I refuse?" A smirk. "The nude photo of you at 18, shot by your ex, ready to go live. Add in the unedited backstage clip, and that fake mental health record I planted during your depressive episode. Believe me, Clara, you'll vanish from the media world as if you never existed." Rick coughed awkwardly. I don't think you should be saying all this." Her eyes narrowed. "Shut up, Rick. You're just a pawn." Just then, the door burst open. A shadow flew in. Gunshot cracked through the basement. Rick collapsed, clutching his shoulder. The gun clattered to the floor. Standing behind him, Serena. Gun still in hand, face pale as a ghost. I only shot his shoulder," she whispered, dazed. I wheeled over, kicked Rick's gun away. His face was drained, but he was alive, and very, very still. I picked up my phone, turned the screen toward Lydia's frozen image. "The game's over, Mother. The basement cameras just recorded our entire conversation, and I've been live streaming this to Lucas's secure network since the moment I entered. Over 2,000 people are watching." Her eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't dare." I smiled. "I've lost my legs, but I still have a lifetime to teach you how to fall." I hung up. 1 hour later, the FBI stormed in, triangulating the GPS from Lucas's livestream. Rick was handcuffed and dragged out without protest. His only words were, I was tricked." I turned to Serena, who still stood frozen, the gun trembling in her hand. "Clara, I never thought I'd actually fire a gun. I never. I pulled her into an embrace. I know, but tonight, you say. Inside, pitch black. Only the faint beam from Lucas's watchlight guided us. The ground floor looked like any upscale reception area, but Lucas spotted a faint crack in the hardwood floor. We peeled back a dusty rug, revealing a hidden hatch with an electronic lock. Lucas worked fast. 90 seconds later, it clicked open. A narrow passage led downward, walls damp, lights blinking red. It felt like descending into the belly of a beast. We moved quietly. The soft echo of my wheelchair on the cold cement floor rang out like a warning. And then I heard it. A hoarse, fragile voice from a soundproof room. "Clara?" I couldn't breathe. I raced toward the voice, shouting, "Jackson?" The door wasn't locked. Inside, under harsh white light, was Jackson. Gaunt, bearded, hair to his shoulders. But his eyes were still his eyes. He stood up at the sight of me, legs trembling like he hadn't walked in years. "You're real," he murmured. I nodded, tears falling freely. "And you're alive." We embraced. For the first time in nearly 4 years, I felt the body of the only man who believed in me, long before the world turned its back. On the way out, Jackson told me everything. "I started investigating your accident. I found massive payments from Lydia to a SHA company under Rick's name. I confronted her, and then I disappeared. They brought me here, sedated me, faked psychiatric records, but I stayed lucid, waiting for you." I stared at him, whispering, "I thought you died." Jackson took my hand, gently tracing the faint scar along my thigh. "No, I swore I wouldn't die. Not until I saw you rise again." Thanks to Lucas disabling the building systems, we escaped unnoticed. Serena drove. Jackson and I sat in the back seat. He leaned his head against my shoulder and whispered, "You're still as sexy as the day we met at that fashion gala." I smiled. Back then, I still had legs. He shook his head, hand resting on my thigh. "It wasn't your legs that made me want to rip your dress off that night. It was your eyes, the kind that tell a man exactly what you want, and that you'll get it, no matter what." We didn't go home. We went straight to Ethan's law office, Jackson's best friend, the man who'd been preparing for this moment for years. Ethan opened his glass doors at 4 a.m. without asking questions. "You're alive? Shit, I lost a bet. Thought you were a ghost." Jackson grinned. "Want me to pinch you?" Ethan pulled us in, poured us whiskey, then said, "You ready? I've got everything we need to bring Lydia down, but this war isn't for the faint of heart." I looked him in the eye. "I lost my legs, Ethan, but I've come farther than any of them ever will." He laughed. "Then let's begin." The next day, we sent our full dossier: basement footage, Lydia's recorded threat, Jackson's false imprisonment records, to an independent investigative journalism outlet. 48 hours later, CNN aired a special report: the dark network behind America's luxury dining chains. Lydia Monroe's name exploded across every news channel. But more importantly, for the first time, the public saw her real face. No makeup, no red lipstick, no perfectly curated smile, just a woman in handcuffs screaming as she was dragged from her estate like a fallen queen. She shouted into the cameras, "You ungrateful brats! I raised her like my own. I gave her everything." And me? On the live broadcast, I said only one thing when asked what I had to say to the woman who used to be my stepmother. No one gets to call themselves a mother if all they ever gave you was fear and destruction. That night, I brought Jackson back to my penthouse. We didn't speak much. We didn't need to. We sat on the balcony, watching the sun dip into the skyline. He wrapped his arms around me from behind and whispered, "You may not be able to walk, but you're the one guiding the whole world back on track." I turned to him, lips brushing his, and for the first time in years, a kiss tasted not like grief, but like justice, Love and the Return of Self. I thought it was over. After the broadcast, after Lydia was paraded out like a disgraced villain from a Gothic play. But as with every silent war, the most dangerous part is what comes after the noise. 1 week later, a black envelope appeared at my apartment door. A chill crawled down my spine. I called Serena, Lucas, and Ethan immediately. We gathered inside Ethan's hidden security office. No electronics, no windows, no leaks. I tossed the photo onto the table. Someone else is behind Lydia, someone we haven't seen. Lucas frowned. What if Lydia was just a puppet? Ethan nodded. Don't forget, she couldn't have run that entire black site, that money laundering network, that fake psych facility, alone. That scale is corporate or government-backed. Serena asked softly, Clara, has anyone in fashion, finance, or media ever backed Lydia? I closed my eyes, sifted through old memories, galas, whispers, handshakes, and then I saw him. Harvey Klein, angel investor for the first lingerie brand I modeled for. 60-something, prematurely silver hair, a smile that said, I already know how this ends. He once invited me to a private dinner when I was 23. I declined. The next day, my entire campaign vanished from every major billboard. I thought it was coincidence, a quiet punishment, but now the pieces aligned. Lucas pulled up his laptop, traced Lydia's companies, cross-referenced shell corporations and capital flow. Click, click, click. He looked up. Guess who's funding Luca Provato and the therapeutic care company that held Jackson? I didn't need to guess. Harvey. Lucas nodded. Real name Harvey Klein, but his assets move under HKG Holdings LLC. He doesn't appear directly, but he controls over 70% of Lydia's funding streams. Ethan sniffed. That bastard set Lydia up as the public face, so when she fell, he wouldn't. Serena whispered, and that photo at your window? That's his calling card. I'm still watching. I took a deep breath, looked at the people around me, my circle of truth. Then we don't just fight back. We make him step into the light, not by dragging him out, but by tempting him to walk in on his own, proud, confident, unafraid. Ethan narrowed his eyes. How? I gave him a smile, cold, precise, with the only thing he can't resist: power, media, and an open invitation. The trap is set. A gala event, a mysterious invite, and Harvey Klein walks into the spotlight for the first and last time. 1 week later, I announced a major expansion. My brand would no longer be just about fashion. It would become a multi-sector collective: fashion, dining, media, and venture capital, all built to empower the voices traditionally shut out. I named it Monroe Collective. Then I organized a lavish fundraising gala at the Beverly Hills Hotel, inviting hundreds of elite investors, politicians, media figures, and to one particular inbox, I sent an anonymous, encrypted invite. We believe you'll be intrigued by the rise of second-generation female power, where no one is excluded just because they cannot walk. I knew Harvey Klein wouldn't resist. A woman in a wheelchair, boldly claiming control over power and media, he would have to see it, would have to test the threat for himself. Gala night. I wore a black evening gown with a plunging neckline, a blood-red ruby pendant resting between my collarbones. The open back of the dress revealed skin like polished marble under the chandelier light. People no longer called me the CEO in a wheelchair. They called me the Queen of Modern Media Rebirth. And then Harvey arrived. He wasn't surprised. He just smiled, the same way he had a decade ago. Clara, he said, shaking my hand, you always did know how to create rooms that men want to invest in. I gripped his hand tighter, eyes locked onto his. And I always knew when to burn down those investments. His eyes narrowed, a flicker of recognition. That's when Lucas, disguised as a cameraman, stepped forward, camera aimed squarely at Harvey. Sir, did you mean that comment for CBS? Harvey withdrew his hand, face tightening. Then Ethan emerged from behind, dropping printed transaction records on a table. These are the transactions from HKG Holdings to the fake firms Lydia used to hire her team. You've just become the lead in tomorrow's primetime news. I stared straight at Harvey. You thought you were the brain, but now every nerve in your empire has been severed. Every account, every connection, every ally, gone. Within moments, FBI agents walked in and arrested him, not for a single crime, but on enough compiled evidence to justify a nationwide financial conspiracy investigation. He didn't resist. But as they walked him out in handcuffs, Harvey muttered, "This isn't the end." I didn't reply. The gala made history. Not for the $1,000 foie gras or the